Sit close. The fire remembers.
The sheep's name was Barley, and she'd always been the stubborn one. I noticed she was missing when I counted the flock at midday. 23, when there should have been 24. I counted again to be sure, touching each one on the head as I went, the way my father had taught me. 23. I looked up at the ridge and saw the gap in the thorn bushes where something had pushed through. The sky was clear. That's what I remember most. Clear and bright with that particular late autumn light that makes everything look sharp-edged and clean. I should have waited until morning, but Barley was old, nearly 8 years, and the nights were getting cold. I'd raised her from a lamb after her mother died in a hard spring. I'd fed her with a rag soaked in goat's milk 3 times a day for weeks. She knew my voice better than the others did. She came when I called, usually. So I took my staff and my water skin and a heel of bread wrapped in cloth, and I climbed. The ridge was steeper than it looked from below. It always is. The path, if you could call it that, wound between grey rocks and patches of scrub grass that cut at my ankles. The rocks up there were different from the ones in the valley. Older, somehow. Darker. Covered in pale lichen that crumbled to powder when I touched it. I could see her tracks in the softer earth between stones. Small cloven prints, heading steadily upward. No hesitation, no wandering. That troubled me more than I wanted to admit. Sheep don't move like that. They drift. They stalk to crop grass that's no better than what they just left. They follow each other in mindless circles. But Barley's tracks were straight and sure, as if she knew exactly where she was going, as if she'd been called. I pushed the thought away. It was foolish, the kind of thing old women said by the fire when they wanted to frighten children. Animals don't get called. They don't hear things. Humans can't hear, except sometimes they do. My grandmother used to tell a story about a dog that walked into the river one morning and never came back out. They found its body 3 days later, miles downstream, and there wasn't a mark on it. Just drowned, standing in the shallows and then gone, as if it had decided to stop breathing. Something called it, she'd said. Something in the water wanted company. I laughed at her then. I was young, and I thought I knew better. By the time I reached the top of the ridge, the sun was starting to sink behind the western hills. The land up there was different, flatter, covered in loose stones that clicked and shifted under my boots. There were no trees, no bushes, just rock, sky, and a wind that smelled of something I couldn't name. Old places have their own smell, like stone that's been wet and dried 1,000 times, like air that hasn't moved in years, like something sleeping. I found more tracks leading toward a dark shape in the hillside, a shadow that didn't quite match the others, a cave mouth, wide and low, like a yawning mouth half buried in the earth. I stopped at the entrance and called her name. My voice echoed back at me, strange and thin, as if the cave had taken it and made it smaller. Nothing else, just the wind moving across the stones with a sound like breathing. I should have gone back, marked the place, returned with rope and a lantern, and maybe Finn from the next farm over, who knew caves and wasn't afraid of the dark. But it would be dark soon, and Barley was somewhere inside, and I could hear something from the cave mouth. Not quite a sound, more like the absence of sound, pulling at me the way a current pulls at your legs when you stand in a river. And I thought I heard her bell, just once, faint and far away. I ducked my head and went in. The cave swallowed me slowly. The entrance was narrow enough that I had to bend almost double, one hand on the rough stone ceiling to steady myself. But it opened up after a few paces, and I could stand upright again. My eyes adjusted to the dimness. There was still light coming from behind me, grey and fading, but it was enough to see by. The passage ahead curved gently to the left, and the floor sloped downward. Not steep, but not level either. The walls were smooth, too smooth, not like water had worn them over centuries, but like something had polished them deliberately. When I reached out and touched the stone, it was warmer than it should have been. Almost body warm, almost like skin. I pulled my hand back. The floor was covered in a fine dust that muffled my footsteps. I could see Barley's tracks in it, clear as day, small and neat, leading deeper. Barley, I called again, but softer this time. Something about the cave made me want to whisper. This time, something answered. Not a voice, exactly, but a stirring. A sense that the darkness ahead had noticed me, that it had been waiting, and now it knew I was there. The hairs on the back of my neck stood up. I should have left then. I should have backed out and run down the hillside, and never looked back. But I didn't. I followed the tracks down. The passage twisted. Once, twice. The light from the entrance faded behind me until I was walking in near darkness, one hand on the wall to guide me. The stone was warm under my palm, warmer now, almost hot. And there was texture to it I hadn't noticed before. Tiny ridges like fingerprints, like the walls in wood grain. The air grew thicker, heavier. Each breath felt like I was drinking something. I'd been walking for maybe 10 minutes when I realized I could see again. Not much, just a faint glow coming from the walls themselves. Pale green, like foxfire, like the phosphorescence you sometimes see on rotting wood in deep forest. It was just enough light to see the passage ahead, just enough to see that the walls were marked with something, lines and shapes worn down almost to nothing. And then the passage opened into a chamber. I felt it before I saw it. The way you can feel a room, even when you can't see it. The way air changes when you step from a narrow hall into a wide space. The chamber was enormous. I couldn't see the ceiling. The glow from the walls rose into darkness that went on forever. The walls curved away from me in all directions, smooth and pale, and alive with that strange light. Barley was standing in the center of the chamber. She wasn't moving, just standing there, her head lowered, her legs locked straight. Her bell hung silent at her neck. The dust around her feet was undisturbed, as if she'd been standing there a long time. "Barley," I said softly. "Come on, girl, let's go home." She didn't move, didn't even flick an ear. I stepped into the chamber, and that's when I realized it wasn't empty. There was something in the walls. Not carved into them, not painted on them, inside them, beneath the surface. I could see shapes pressing up against the stone from within, like bodies pressed into clay before it hardens. Faces, hands, the curve of a shoulder, a bent knee, the outline of a head tilted back as if looking at something above. Dozens of them, maybe hundreds, climbing the walls into the dark. My breath caught in my throat. Some of the faces were peaceful, eyes closed, mouths relaxed, like sleep. Others weren't peaceful at all. "She won't come," said a voice. It came from everywhere and nowhere, from the walls, from the floor, from the air itself. It was soft and patient and very, very old in a way that made my bones ache, just hearing it. "Who's there?" I asked. "I am," said the voice, "and I have been for a long time." "What is this place?" I asked. "A sanctuary," said the voice, and there was something almost gentle in it. "A refuge, a home for those who are tired." Tired of what? Of walking, of carrying, of the weight of the world above, of waking to the same days until you die. I didn't like the way it said that, as if life was something to shrug off. "Let my sheep go," I said. "She came willingly," said the voice. "When she was ready." Ready for what? To rest. "I'm taking her home," I said. "You can try," said the voice, "but she can't go. She's already begun." I moved toward Barley and reached for her. Her wool felt wrong, too stiff, too cold, like it had started to turn into stone. I pulled my hand back, as if I'd been burned. "What have you done to her?" I demanded. "I've given her what she wanted," said the voice. "Peace, an end to hunger and fear and winter nights. Soon she won't need to eat or drink or dread wolves. Soon she'll be part of something greater. Part of me, part of us. What are you? I asked. There was a long pause. I am the stone, it said finally. I am the earth that remembers. I have been here since the mountain was young, and I will be here when it is dust. I take in those who come to me, and I keep them safe. I looked at the shapes in the walls again. Some had hands raised, fingers spread, pressed into the stone like they were reaching for something, or pushing away. I couldn't tell which. You trap them, I said. I preserve them, the voice corrected, almost offended. Do you know how many have come to me? Shepherds, travelers, lost children, soldiers with nowhere else to go, people carrying weights they couldn't bear. I take away pain, fear, hunger, loneliness. I make them part of something that does not fade. They're dead, I said. No, said the voice, and now it sounded hurt. They're here, they're listening, they are with me. My legs felt heavy. You should sit, said the voice, softer now, persuasive. You've walked far today. You must be tired. I was tired, too tired. My shoulders ached, my feet hurt, and there was a weariness in my chest that felt older than the past day. Sit, said the voice. Rest a moment. What harm could it do? There was a stone ledge along the wall. I hadn't noticed it before. It looked smooth, comfortable. I wanted to sit. How long have you been here? I asked instead, trying to keep my thoughts moving. Always, said the voice. I was old when the first people came to these hills. I watched them live and die, and I took in the ones who found me. You take them against their will. No, said the voice, genuinely offended. They choose. I only offer. What did you offer Bali? Silence, said the voice. An end to hard ground and cold nights. She was old. She was tired. She wanted to stop. I looked at her. Her eyes were open, but distant, as if she were looking at something I couldn't see. And what are you offering me? I asked. A place to belong, the voice said. A place where you don't have to carry anything anymore. No flock to tend. No weather to fear. No loneliness in the hours before dawn. Just rest. Rest. It sounded like mercy. It sounded like a trap. What if I say no? I asked. Then you walk back up the passage, said the voice. And you live your life. And you grow old. And you die. And the world forgets you. The words settled on me like wet wool. But you'll remember me, the voice continued, quieter. In the quiet moments, when you're alone by the fire, when the weight feels too heavy, and one day you'll come back. I made myself take a step toward the passage. My feet didn't want to move. Don't you want to see her one last time? The voice asked. You're Bali. She trusted you. Don't you want to say goodbye? I turned. Bali was looking at me now. Her eyes were fixed on my face, empty, as if whatever made her Bali had already gone somewhere else. She can't hear you anymore, said the voice. But she's at peace. She won't be cold again. She won't be afraid. She's gone, I said quietly. No, said the voice. She's here. Something wet ran down my face. I realized I was crying. You loved her, the voice said. Softer now. Love is a heavy thing to carry. Wouldn't it be easier to set it down? My hand drifted toward the ledge. Sit, said the voice, just for a moment. Then I felt something, a tingling in my fingers. I looked down. My hand was pale, too pale, and when I flexed my fingers, they moved slowly, stiffly, like they were pushing through water. What? I started. Whoosh, said the voice. It's starting. Don't fight it. It doesn't hurt. My feet felt rooted to the floor. I looked down and saw stone creeping over my boots, over my ankles. A thin layer, pale and smooth, like a second skin. No, I said. Yes, said the voice, and now there was eagerness in it. You've breathed the air. You've touched the walls. You've listened. The cave knows you now. I pulled at my feet, but they were stuck fast. The stone climbed my legs like frost on glass, slow, steady, certain. Let me go, I said. I can't, said the voice, and it sounded almost sorry. You came here of your own will. You stayed. That's all it takes. The stone reached my knees, then my waist. A warmth spread upward. Not painful, almost pleasant, like sinking into a hot bath after a long day. Please, I whispered. Don't be afraid, said the voice. Look at Barley. Look at how peaceful she is. The glow held my eyes. I could see my reflection in the wall, becoming part of it. The stone reached my chest, crept up my arms. I tried to scream, but my throat was already filling with stone, warm and thick and gentle. The last thing I could move was my eyes. I looked at Barley one last time, and I saw the shapes in the walls, all those faces, all those hands, and I realized they were looking at me too, watching me join them. The last thing I heard was the voice humming softly, a lullaby with no words. Sleep now, it said. We've been waiting. And then there was only the stone, warm and dark and silent, and I was part of it. There's a cave on the ridge above the valley. Sometimes shepherds go up there looking for lost sheep. Most of them come back, but not all. And if you go deep enough, you'll find a chamber with glowing walls. If you look closely at the stone, you'll see shapes beneath the surface, faces, hands, bodies, pressed into the rock like flowers pressed between pages. Some look peaceful, some look like they're trying to scream, and somewhere in there, if you stare long enough, you might see a shepherd with kind eyes and weathered hands, and next to him, a ship with a bell. They've been there a long time now, and they'll be there a long time more. The stone remembers, and the stone is always waiting.